You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Well, we're about to get into conversation with lawyer and public affairs analyst Liborous Oshoma, a proud son of Edo State, from a town called Anegbete, very close to Uromi, the scene of last Thursday's barbaric and regrettable killing of 16 persons purportedly traveling to the northern part of the country for the Muslim festival of Eid al-Fitr. Mr. Oshoma, this is welcoming you to the morning show. Good to have you join us in the studio.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to, I don't know who amongst you to beg now to run for 2027 presidential election.
Oh, why? Why would you say why would you want to do that?
You know, the Holy Spirit was saying maybe I should beg Steve to run.
Do what?
To run, right?
Don't put me in.
To run for president.
Why do you say
why
that?
Steve though?
Maybe I should, you know. No, I'm just maybe.
Was it from the conversation earlier?
Yes.
Oh, I see. All right, let's stick to our main topic of the day.
What did you
I
see?
think it was nothing. It is great to have you join us on the morning show,
My pleasure.
I find it quite interesting that you start out, on such a light note, especially because what's happening right now in Uromi, Edo State is quite heartbreaking, I would say. It's incredibly sad. What's your assessment of everything that has happened, especially the fact that the governor has also weighed in on the issue, his swift response, and just generally that incident that a lot of people would say, is this just going to be extrajudicial killings? Is this jungle justice? Especially from a legal perspective, how will this be handled as a matter of law?
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, my condolence to the families of the deceased and the people of Kano State. I learned they are from Kano. They were going back to Kano. And also, it's a very unfortunate incident. For me, the first step would be, and this should, also help us kickstart that discussion again on the security challenges in Nigeria. It's an opportunity for us to reassess and rediscuss this issue. And then also, I want to commend the state government for the swift response. We saw the governor visit the site, and he went with his entire team, and not just sending a deputy there. But another thing, Uromi is very notorious for, if you remember in 2024, there was a bank robbery in Uromi. A military officer was killed, and some civilians, and the deputy governor visited, the former deputy governor visited, so that was the difference here. And so for this also will enable us begin to discuss this resort to self-help. Resorting to self-help is illegal under our law. And then the question, the big thing for me, the big issue here is, there's this conversation we have been running away from. It started under Buhari, and then this issue of ranching, because there's this belief now that once you see, and apart from that, also the gun control in Nigeria. So there's this belief that once I'm traveling and I see headsmen on the road, I will slow down, I become apprehensive. We move away from that conversation. Oh yes, they are farmers, they can go around with their cattle and the rest. But we've seen situations where also some of these herders, the bad ones, go into people's farm, uproot cassavas and feed them to their cows. These are other people's farm too. So a situation where villagers now resort to creating vigilante, because the state government has said this clearly is an illegal vigilante, because there is a state security corps that was created recently by virtue of the anti-kidnapping amendment law in the state. And so, with all of these conversations, there's need for the federal government to kickstart a conversation on security and security challenges. When President Bola Tinubu was in opposition, they consistently challenged this idea of having one central police system, this idea of the federal government having to provide security for the entire country, and that there's need for us to decentralize, the policing and security. Because of the 300 and something thousand police that we have, I can tell you, more than 60% of those policemen are guarding politically exposed people, individuals, including Yahoo boys. If you can afford it, just pay. And then the rest are left to get 200 million people. So with that lapses, what now happens is communities create, these vigilantes to provide security on their behalf. And the challenge here is that because these vigilantes are not trained, some of them are hunters, and so they are not trained, and so they resort to this kind of self-help. We've all seen it in cities like Lagos, where people will resort to jungle justice because you just shout, ole, ole. Remember those days in Lagos here? Once you just shout thief. And then this also brings to mind the Alu killings in Port Harcourt. So in all of this, in the midst of all of this, I like the fact that the government also had taken the step to suspend the head of the security corps. Because ordinarily what I gathered is that if they have a command and control structure. So issues like this, if they are the state government vigilante, there ought to be a command, a sector commander, and then an area commander, just like the police. So if issues like this, if it escalates, you report the matter to the sector commander, who eventually will, escalate it to the state level.
That's part of what I was going to ask you. Because we're not dealing with just the governor visiting the scene and then pronouncing a ban on the vigilante. The president is saying, get the perpetrators. But then part of what we're hearing, I don't know how much of it you can put context to. A part of what we're hearing is that there was information earlier to the vigilantes about the fact that those who were on their way in a particular bus were carrying ammunition. And then secondly, when there was a charge to check the vehicle and everything, there was allegedly, a response.
One of the vigilante persons was stabbed.
And things like that. Are we making a sense of it when we say go get the perpetrators without actually finding out what led to everything? I'm not saying that perpetrators shouldn't be brought to justice, because nobody is allowed under the Nigerian Constitution to kill another person. But what led to what? Who are these unfortunate people that we have lost? And why were they carrying ammunition all the way from Port Harcourt going, up north to Kano?
So that's why I said there's need for us to have a holistic conversation on this. The first thing is I also talked about the need for this gun control. You ask yourself the question, why will somebody, they are hunters, you travel from the north to hunt in the south. With the level of insecurity and the challenges, the apprehension also, anybody that sees you with such, whether it's dang gun, nobody wants to hear. The fact that there are guns, there are guns. Well, the question will now be, what were these people doing with guns? I agree also that provocation is a defense in law, but the level of response, it's not commensurate to the act of provocation, that they were stabbed, somebody was stabbed. Killing them is not a response to somebody stabbing. So, and that's why I think that the idea of gun control and the issue of this roaming around and with the kind of insecurity that we have, we should now allow the security to actually, do what we call a forensic auditing and investigation. The idea of trying to play politics, because I have also listened to, the other side playing politics with it, giving ultimatum, and that's not how to handle security situation. That's not how to handle security challenges. Some people also are angry that 14 persons have been arrested, that when Deborah was killed in Sokoto, that till date nobody was arrested and there was no response. So that issue of Deborah also, he's a human being. Whether it's 1, whether it's 10, we should all condemn it. So it is with this kind of scenario that I would expect, and I will advise the government, not just say go after the perpetrators, also find out what is leading, because it has happened in Uromi today. What's the guarantee that tomorrow there are no other persons also traveling from Oshoma to wherever with guns and ammunition in trucks, under questionable circumstances? Unfortunately, the people are not here today to answer to where they were coming from, where they were going to. But the allegation is that they are itinerary, hunters. But traveling from Kano to come hunt in Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt also is a question we should ask. Port Harcourt also is a riverine community. It's fishing that we know River State for, and not hunting. So these are questions that are begging for answer that, until we conduct a detailed and forensic investigation into, you won't find the answer. But I also, think that the state government should use this now as an opportunity to actually, look at the entire vigilante structure, consistently overhaul it. And that will also enable them to have, nip issues like this in the board. Because recently, you find out that there were heightened security challenges around the border towns in Edo State. And Uromi is one. If you're coming from the east, you're coming from south, and you're going to Abuja, there's no way you're not going to pass through Uromi. And with the kind of security challenges that they've been having in Uromi, certainly people from Uromi are not going to just fold their hands and allow anything to happen. Yep. So all of these are the issues we'll wait to see how the federal government will deal with it. But I also want the federal government to collaborate with the state government on this to ensure that, future vigilantes are trained. And let's also have a situation where this issue of policing, community policing, and this idea of having one police that reports to no governor, we should be dealing with it also.
All right, Liborous, Oshoma, my heart goes out to you because you are from Edo State and that area.
My village is about 20 minutes from Uromi.
Yeah, sorry about...
Yes, Anagwete. Yes.
Okay.
All right, and also my heart goes out to 24 victims and the people that have suffered this sort of, tragic incident. And, it brings me to my question about resorting to self-help and the reason why, these people, there is even a vigilante group in Uromi in that area. I believe that the governor has also suspended the commander of the Edo State Security Corps, Friday Ibadan, and I think that is a step that he has taken at this moment. The issue about small arms, I want to know the legality of those. What sort of arms can we carry as Nigerians roaming around at this moment? And should the federal government declare a state of emergency on security in Edo State right now?
Not just Edo. Look, we're discussing Edo now. You can't travel. I used to go to Owerri a lot, but now I can no longer travel to Owerri, even flying to Owerri. I can't go. I don't speak Igbo. I love the place. It used to be very quiet. But since the death of Gulak on that airport road... It
used to be bubbly too.
Exactly, it used to be bubbly. But go to Owerri now, the hotels are dry. Even people from that state cannot go to their villages. And from recently, I went to, sometimes, some years back, I used to love traveling from Kano to Kazaure to Daura, then Katsina. But today, recently, just last week, there were kidnappings and killings on that road. So it is everywhere in Nigeria. So it is not just Edo State. Let's declare a state of emergency on security generally in Nigeria, and then sit down, have a holistic conversation about it. And then the issue of light arms. Yeah. Legally, it is police that are empowered to license, owners of light arms. But with the proliferation of arms, and then in some cases, you see headsmen carrying AK-47, and they tell you because people are attacking their cows. So let's also look at this idea of ranching. It's a business. You can't use your business to spoil mine. You're using your cattle to, move through people's farm. And some of them also have accused the village community leaders that anywhere you see them stay beyond 1 month, they settle community leaders. So this is where the state government also now begins to question some of these community leaders. And before, we were traveling to the village, you travel between that Benin-Auchi road, you can travel at any time. But now, for the past 15, 20 years, 15 years to this time has been terrible. Very, very terrible. That if there are no military and the police on that road, you dare not travel. That is so bad that police will tell you, please, don't enter that road before 9. And once it is 4, stay at home.
So would you say there's like a selective response to insecurity
Yes,
in Nigeria?
Exactly. That what the federal government is doing is a selective response. You know, when it happens in your state as a governor, you are left at the mercy of the local that you have, like Edo State governor. For me, I feel for him. He's helpless. He's helpless. You train your local vigilante, after donating vehicles to the police, they bought vehicles, and that's all you can do, donate vehicles to the police. And at the end of the day, it is the federal government that will empower them with arms, and we decide who to post to where. So if you are lucky, they post many men to your place. How many of these police stations can actually respond? Imagine, let's assume now that with those numbers of people, and they are carrying not just Dane guns and their other arms, maybe confiscated, concealed, and then they attack a community like Uromi. What's the number of the policemen in Uromi that will respond to such an attack? Zero. Because the few that you have are already guarding all the big men, rich men everywhere. So with that kind of challenge, a governor is at the mercy of the federal government. You remember Jonah Jang those days? Yeah. Said, I called the commander at 2 a.m. He didn't respond. So in this case, it is the same thing. That's why you see government are empowering hunters, they're empowering local vigilantes, creating vigilantes, training them. It is the same police and the military that will still come and train these vigilantes.
What sort of training do they
So why are we running away from having the conversation about local security when it is the same police that will train the vigilantes and you buy local gun, licenses by the same police to give to them to provide security? Because the police is overwhelmed. They can't provide this security.
But you've spoken extensively about the vigilante that has been duly appointed to say, by the governors to take care of the state. But in this situation, we're looking at what the governor is calling illegal vigilante operatives. These people are illegal. So now, speaking to that illegality, where do they come from usually? Who empowers them? Where do they get these weapons? And also keeping in mind that for this type of incident to happen, they didn't just show up. They showed up. There was a crowd that gathered. The crowd, nobody stopped them from doing what they were doing. So there was some form of understanding within that area that this is who these people are, because they set up a station in that location where there are no police officers to say, you're not supposed to be here. This is that. So these people seem to be illegally empowered as well.
That's why the government is saying, these are illegal, we do not recognize them. Because before the election, if you remember, there was this local vigilante also recognized by the government, the previous administration, and then the IG suspended that vigilante in the entire state. And so, on allegation that they were trained for election and all of that, so many stories. And then this governor came on board and said, look, we need to restructure, we need to reorganize this structure. This entire, the law first and foremost was amended. And then they set up a local vigilante, those security corps.
Yes.
And so that security corps, they had command structures, command and control structure. And ordinarily, if these people were part of those that were trained, once it happens, the next thing would have been to radio the sector commander at the local government that would probably call for backup. And then maybe they'll move all of these people to their office for interrogation and investigation. But because of the challenges of security across the borders in the state, what some of the communities do, like in my community also, we do it. You see, some of us in the cities will contribute money to protect communities. So they empower their locals. My community had fought a communal clash. Till date, they are apprehensive that anything can happen. So they empowered locals, hunters, and youths in the village to act as vigilante. So these ones ordinarily are not recognized by the government.
What do they do when there's insecurity? What do these young people that...
So this, because they are not trained, what they do is what you're saying now. What? They take laws into their hands. And that's why the state government...
Dane guns as well? They have the Dane guns?
Yes. Just like hunters.
The community are aware of this.
Yes, the communities are aware. Just like hunters in the community.
That I asked you about.
Illegality.
You have not answered that question.
That's the illegality that the government is talking about, and that's why even the commander of the corps,
no, I'm talking about small arms.
Yes,
yes, go ahead.
So that's why the commander of the security corps is also suspended for failure to rein in all of this small illegal, because it's supposed to be his responsibility to do all of that. But sometimes you can be overwhelming, and so all of these light arms, where are they purchased from? That's the big question. Where are they purchased from? There are people who are supplying them. Sometimes some of them are retired policemen. You know, and then when they are purchased, sometimes they go get license from the same police. You know, so the police will know that, yes, the license gone for some vigilante, but this vigilante do not have the connection, the nexus with the state government recognized operatives. So, but I think with this, what had happened now is now the state government is saying, look, you know what we have put on ground, we need to truly put our foot on ground and ensure that every vigilante, there is a command and control, that every incident must be duly, you know, professionally handled. Okay. And once that happens, I think, and it is across board, not just in Edo, across board in every other state, and then we'll now take that discussion further. Certainly, we'll be able to solve the security challenges to a very large extent, because every security is local.
Let me build on that with two questions, Liborous. One will be the vigilante thing. What lessons can Edo State in particular, but of course the entire South in general, what lessons can they learn from Amotekun in the Southwest that involves all the governors there? And I believe Ebubeagu, which one was the one in the Southeast? You know,
Ebubeagu, yes, Ebubeagu.
So that's one. The second part will be this hunters thing. I'm very concerned about what it means. Legally speaking, who is a hunter? Who is a local hunter in Nigeria? What law protects him? Yes. What law empowers him to do what he purports to be doing?
Ordinarily,
I hope you understand the importance of this question.
Yeah. Ordinarily, if you look at the Forestry Act,
yes.
If you look at the Forestry Act, some of these people we call hunters are illegal operators.
Absolutely.
If you look at the Forestry Act, they do not have the business of going to, you know, hunt animals, and there are areas that are designated ordinarily. But because of failure of governance, so I can wake up tomorrow, and if my father was, my grandparents were local hunters, and maybe I relocate to the village, or somebody out of nothing to do, just like estate agents, out of nothing to do, I get a day gone, and I say, today I'm a hunter. Yeah. And then, because of the overwhelming security challenges, what the police do now, go to Ogun State, they have Ashobon, they are local hunters. They collaborate with the police. They are recognized and registered by the police. So they know them. So sometimes they even use them to gather information, intelligence. So which is what the state government, you know, is also doing in Edo State. Because in these places, since you can't beat them, the what do you call it now? The structure, the compliance structure has completely collapsed. Those days we used to have forest guards, yes. But today there are no more forest guards. You know, so because the compliance structure has completely collapsed, anybody can be a hunter now, register with the local group. But so this also will be an opportunity for the state government to register. If you are a hunter, there should be procedures for registration. Exactly. There should be areas designated for hunting. And if the state government, if you are to provide security, I learned for the vigilante, they even donated Okada for them, you know, because to assess some of these bushes where vehicles cannot access. So when you have control of everybody and you have a database for them, if anything happens, you know who to call immediately in any area. You call your sector commander, you call your area commander, who will reach those on ground to give you, you know, first-hand information. But what we have is, you know, anybody can become a hunter today. Anybody, just anybody. Provided you are registered. Some of them are not even hunters, but because of lack of nothing to do.
Exactly.
So they are, you know, they are accepted in the community as, okay, yes, his parents were hunters, or he has the physique. He can provide, you know, security. Some of them are youths. They call them, if you go to Warri, they you know, youth leadership. Not just Warri, in every state. All these people you call up Monila here, they are youth leaders. In Warri, they call Deve. You know, so in some of these communities, these youth leaders also act as this local vigilante. So it's a truly total collapse of security, and not the state government alone cannot handle it. But I also, like I've consistently said, that this will also be an opportunity for the state governor, while visiting this scene, some of these military personnel that are at station at some of these, what do you call it, on the road, at the base, there's need also, not just address their commander, also visit them, boost their morale by, relating with them. That will go a long way also in creating that synergy that is needed. But as for the hunters, there's nothing we can do now. It is to find a way to register them and ensure that, the ones that are operating, operate within the guidelines. Otherwise, you continue to have issues like this.
Now, let's look at this from the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What do people need? Looking at this officials now. We've spoken extensively about how, the government can put people in place, ensure that they are properly, duly registered. But the thing is, there are security operatives at the end of the day. But what is their priority at this time? Are we telling the governments to put people to checkmate these issues, people that probably haven't had 3 square meals or even 1 proper meal in a day, or people that can barely feed their families? So looking at this from the perspective of the weaponization of poverty as well, and how that has contributed to the issues that we have today, how can we and how would you say the government can equally put checkmates in place to ensure that these people are not just working, but then their needs, instead of somebody coming to tell you, okay, because what you said about the Omonile, it's all over, it's everywhere. These are people that they collect dues from the businesses around, the akara seller, the fish pie baker, that carries it on their head. They collect dues so that they can protect the society, but they are not government recognized.
They are collecting. They are recognized by government. You can't collect dues in Lagos State here. Steve knows. All those people you see collect
so you're saying that
on the road. There is somebody who is a leader, who is a commander,
yes,
who the state government recognize. He in turn empowered these boys to collect dues and give tickets. At the end of the day, he is accountable to the government. Because also,
but you have to agree that they are the dues that are not remitted.
No, yes, I agree with you.
But maybe not in Lagos, maybe not.
But in this case, Edo State, for example, I like the fact also that the state government recently declared state of emergency on education.
Yeah.
Apart from the infrastructure on ground, there's need also for teachers. And education will go a long way in solving insecurity. Because if people are educated and there are industries, some of these people that will go into hunting won't go into hunting. And then secondly, how do you solve? Because poverty and insecurity go pari passu. And then if you look at also farming, I talked about dredging River Niger, River Benue, because now the rains will soon come. We'll see some of these communities will be flooded. If you don't dredge this River Niger and River Benue, any little water, the riverbed will be flooded and will overflow into this community. Some of these people will run away. What is the next available means? And then for this vigilante, when governments, empower them, they are paid stipends by government. They are paid. So those ones that are recognized by the government are paid by the government. I remember then in my community, there were 2 of them who were registered with the government. But over time, they became high-handed. Because you give a man a gun and then you are not controlling him. With time he will become, dictatorial and high-handed. Absolutely. So that's why it is work in progress. So what we should do, whether as those in government and those in opposition, let us allow a detailed and forensic investigation into this. And then the outcome of it, let government now work with it and find solution. While we keep recommending ways that will help ameliorate and reduce insecurity challenges in Nigeria.
All right, Liborous Oshoma, we want to thank you so much for joining us on the morning show. Yes. I think the points are very clear. Let justice be done on what has happened in Uromi, but let's also get our policing right.
Right, yes.
A situation where you have more than half of your police officers guarding every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
That was my last point I was going to make, whether this situation validates or invalidates the advocacy for state police.
What is the vigilante that the governors are empowering?
Yes.
It's state policing indirectly. Right. So why can't we just, whether you call it community police, why can't we just have that conversation and find a way to empower the governors to be able to protect their states?
Absolutely. All right, Liborous, thank you
very much for joining us on the morning show. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right then.